Hello, Harry Paden here, and it's time for another episode of the Paden Perspective. This episode will highlight Black buying power. So let's get right to it. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of trepidations because we got an orange guy in office who, does everything that's counter to our community, kind of throwing back the clock. And a lot of people are distressed, and it's understandable. But I've always been taught to have a plan of action. My plan of action is simple. I don't care who occupies the White House. I'm going to take care of those things that need to be taken care of. Every morning when I get up, I'm going to wash, take care of myself, take care of my surroundings, take care of my children, take care of all those things that should be taken care of. No matter who's president, that's okay. Because he has to do the same thing. The exact same thing. If he doesn't do it, then his life will fall apart. So saying that, that's my advice for us as far as what we should be doing. Now, those of us who live in certain communities, and I always say it that way, we have to be mindful that people think of us a certain way because we live in certain communities. Now, where I live, very suburbanish, but for some reason, the people in the neighborhood can't seem to not throw paper on the ground, don't do things that are taking care of the neighborhood. And I wonder, do they see the same neighborhood that I see? I constantly tell people, you don't walk on grass. Grass is a living substance. It's living, it's breathing. If you step on it, it's going to die. So a lot of our problem is that we don't take care of our own communities. And then we get that label, urban community, suburban, that's their community. Well, again, I live in a suburban community that sometimes people who are urban tend to live in. And I say it that way because if you're urban, you throw paper on the ground. You don't care about your surroundings. That's an urban thing. Suburban people, my pastor told me this once. He lives in a neighborhood where he didn't even know that there were street cleaners because the streets stay clean. One day he happened to see the street cleaner, and they must come once every month. In our areas, they come twice a week. And people throw things on the ground. And I always make a joke, it's a shame those people from up there are coming down here throwing garbage on our neighborhood. Of course I'm being sarcastic because we're the ones that's doing it. So this segment here is called We, Us. We have to do better before we expect others to do better. Again, we use that term urban. So let's talk about urban communities. Urban communities, there are several things that tend to label a place urban as a community. Poverty, extreme poverty. You see people there with little or no money. Drug abuse, big problem in most urban communities. Crime is a big problem. Inferior schools in a lot, if not most, urban communities. Mental illness, a great deal of mental illness. Being poor drives you crazy. So, it just is one problem after another. But here's how we can do better. We have to take the ball by the reins. There are certain people who take the ball by the reins, or take the horse by the reins, however you say that expression. Way back when, the Jewish people were part of, and they still are, part of that conglomerate that were mistreated by the people here who had power, had the old money, and they weren't very nice to a lot of different people, Jewish people included. They said, let's look around. What can we own that would help make us powerful in this great nation? There's a lot to own, but what can we own exclusively? And you know what they did successfully? They took over the television industry. Because when you're able to tell your story, you can tell your story better than someone else can tell your story. And then you control what comes into people's minds. Very clever. Now, today's era, we're still getting mixed messages about who we are. I hear terms that make me cringe. I got hair on my arm. It makes the hair on my arm stand up. Every time someone speaks of the urban community, black people, brown people, people of color, they say minority. Now, when I looked up minority, it means less than. So that used to be a term that fit. It fit because population-wise, we were the minority. We were less than what was the other population, which happened to be white Caucasian. But nowadays, black, brown, Latino, any other color, Chinese, we, by the populace, by the numbers, we are the majority population. So stop using that degrading term when you describe yourself. I live in the minority community. No, you don't. Oh, I'm getting mad. I don't want to get mad. But let's control the narrative. Another thing about controlling the narrative is January, when it comes, we have a great holiday, Dr. King's birthday, great celebrations. You know, he says use his day. The family says use his day as a time on, not a day off. And it's good. Many communities have celebrations and good things. But I get depressed at the end of each of these ceremonies that I go to, where we do what's traditional and we lock hands like they did when they were being beaten, you know, hosed down, have dogs biting them. They were really fighting for what was freedom. Thank God for them, because I don't know if I could have did it. I would have hit back, spat back, and probably been dead by now. But they were very smart. They used an effective means, and now we're free. Thank God for them, so we should celebrate them. But when we lock arms, and when they go for the tradition, they're still singing, "We will be free one day." I'm free today, y'all. So let's change the narrative. We will not sing, "I will be free." I am free. I am free today. I am free today. I am free today. Yes, I am. Okay, so if you need a, I'm not a great songster. You got many great people out there. Stevie, fix that for me. Let's control the narratives, because when we sing, "I will be free someday." What day? What day? So let's proclaim what we have, and it's good to have that tradition, but we now will change the narrative. Good example, what they labeled the Central Park 5. We know the story. If you don't know the story, Google that, Central Park 5. That has now motivated them because they were totally exonerated, free, no crime, but they spent time, many years in jail, innocently. But now they have changed the narrative. They said they call us the Central Park 5, but we now call ourselves the exonerated 5. See, controlling the narrative. So let's get that way. We have a lot of conventions. I've attended a lot of them. The Million Man March, the Million Family March, the Million Women March. Of course I went to that. Or a Million Women, come on, y'all. But we've had a lot of great conventions, even conventions going on as I speak. And it's good. But you know the sad thing about the conventions that I found, in my opinion, Harry Paden, the Paden perspective, is that we go to these things, we pump ourselves up, and we return home and we forget everything that went on. Nothing takes place. It's just rhetoric. Rhetoric is just talk. I want action. I want things in our community. So here's, now, There's some studies of the urban community. Worth, WIRTH model. That's a study of the urban community. I studied it. GANS, GAN, GANS, compositionalism, compositionalism, GANS. It's another one. Or this one. This is another great one. Fisher's subcultural theory. And they all study the urban community and talk about what the problem with some of these theories is. I don't know where these people come from, but they don't talk about my community the way my community should be addressed. They talk about it like they're going to fix our community, and many of them haven't even lived in this community. So let me again, Dr. Paden, I have a doctor in streetology, in urbanism. I was born in Harlem, raised in Newark, so I know a few things about that. But I'm successful. I've now made it out of those areas, and I'm giving back to my community. So let's talk about blacks and what we could do. Did you know that the number of black and non-farm businesses have grown by over 60%, 60.5%, and it's at 1.9 million, and it makes these businesses one of the fastest growing segments of the economy. Yes, black businesses, people are opening them up. The problem with that is that we, as a community, as a people, don't support them. We say they're too high, they don't treat you right. But wait a minute, don't I see on these YouTubes and everything, people spitting on you, people calling the police on you? They don't treat you too good either. So let's stop that nonsense. Let's support our community. Why? Did you know that the black buying power is the 16th largest? If you compared it, if it was a country, if black buying power was a country, we would be the 16th largest buying power as a country. If blacks were an exclusive country, we would be the 16th on the list. That's pretty big, because you got people like China, America, you got a lot of places. Now, black buying power, it does exceed that of the Asians, falls below Hispanics and whites. But blacks spend over $1 trillion in annual money, different things, shopping, eating, whatever else it is, buying cars. If we took our income and we examined it and put it exclusively to people who identify and treat us right, that's $1 trillion. But here's the problem. There is a Washington, D.C. based research company. The research companies go and do all this research. It's called Harvest Institute. They say, according to their research, not my research, their research, but I tend to believe it, that the black community money circulates 0 to 1 time before it comes out of our community. Now, the Jewish community, I spoke about the Jewish community, circulates at least 12 times. Asians circulate 6 times. And that means that that money goes around in that community many more times before it enters and leaves that community. So we have to now normalize what we're going to do. If we want to be a spending power, if we want to be a power, we want people to treat us the way that we want to be treated or we deserve to be treated, we have to take our power back. Our power is the spending power. Stop giving Gucci and Ferragamo and all these other people your money because you think that it makes them, you think that it makes you look good. Only name brand thing that you ever see Harry Paden wear is Under Armour. And that's just because they wear some of the tightest shirts in the world. They make some of the tightest shirts. We get a brother, sister, person of color that makes shirts. They call compression shirts that fit me, and I'll buy it. But otherwise, I don't wear name brand stuff. I don't care about those people because when I put it on, I make it look good, so they should pay me. Let us take time to go and let's have a convention about that. Who's going to clean your clothes? Take it to Harry's Cleaners, who happen to be a black guy. I don't have a cleaners, but I'm just using names. Where we're going to get our chicken? Let's stop going to the persons that don't look like us because we say their chicken tastes better. Come on. They make better chicken than us? Something is wrong with that picture. No, they take the time and merchandise it, and we support them. And then at the end of the day, they pull down those things, those gates, so you don't break into it. That's what they say. So you don't break into it. And they get in their nice, fancy cars that you pay for, and their little run-down shoes, beat-up pants, tiny, shirts, no big money. They're not walking in with Ferragamo and Gucci and all that kind of stuff. They take our money that doesn't circulate in our community, and then they go out to their suburbs. Something is wrong with that picture. Black buying power can be as much as 2 trillion with a T. Look it up. Not that great with numbers, but I know that a trillion is more than a billion, is more than a million. Now a zillion, that's a lot. That's a made up word. But let's take that 1 million that we have as spending power, and let's turn it into 2 trillion. Let's open up our own TV studio. I know we have Oprah Winfrey Network, Tyler Perry, but we have a lot of other things. Why isn't, and I'm going to end, why don't we have a Black History station? 24/7 of Black History. Why isn't that Black History station a staple of all of our communities? A staple of our schools? Why? Because we like to get money from other folks. And other folks put stipulations and say, you can't do that. One time, there was a principal who happened to be Caucasian, happened to be a white principal. He separated the middle school boys and the middle school girls in their classes, and it was working. Girls weren't flexing for the guys, and guys weren't. They were there and they were learning, because it was all guys and all girls in the classes. It was working. I was on the board then, I think, or whatever. And I remember when he brought it, he said, no, we can't do that. The state's going to get mad and they're going to take our funding. But it was working. It was working. See, that's the problem. When you depend on someone else, you do what they tell you to do. If I finance you, I say get up at 8:30, you get up at 8:30. Otherwise, I stop financing you. Let's take that $1 trillion of black money, and let's make sure that we take care of our people. We don't have to depend on. Let's get our schools together. A good example is Chicago's Urban Prep. It's an all-male school. Again, see, all-male. Each year for the last 6 years, every student that graduated from that school has went on to college. Why? Because those teachers in that school tell those kids what they should be. They reinforce and de-reinforce the stereotypes and reinforce letting them know what we should be. See, there are a couple of cultures in the urban community. There's the cool culture where you know the latest dance, where you know the latest YouTube stuff. Those are cool, and everybody takes part in it, and it's real fun. And it's good. Lightens your mind and everything's good. But then there's a culture of Africa where we take care of our seniors. The senior citizens and the elders are revered because they have come through with the knowledge. In our communities, it's the Johnny come lately. Someone who, 1 year ago decided to be political, kind of cute. So we think that person's a new it person. And they come in, rape our community for the money, resources, lie, cheat, put all their cousins in office, all their uncles and all that kind of stuff in office, and they rob. And then when they leave and go to jail, we say, oh, wow, how did that happen? We need to do better. We got to do better. This is Harry Paden, the Paden Perspective. The opinions you heard are mine. There are facts laced with that. You can look at the facts, because the facts, I try to do my homework, and I'm pretty good with that. So hopefully you won't ever catch me, but if you catch me, then I got to do better. But let's spend our buying power. Let's make our buying power take care of our community. God is good to those who allow him to be. Let's stop letting people spit on us and tell us it's raining. That's the Paden Perspective, Season 1, Episode 4, Buying Power. See you next time. Thanks for watching. To God be the glory.